Good evening. Welcome to Policy Matters. This is where you can have the undisputed truth. I'm your host, Jerry Brown, and our topic today is an issue that's taking place out on the southeast side of Chicago, but it's actually having an effect on the entire state of Illinois. The Illinois Port Authority has an issue going on, and I'm going to say in conjunction with the Illinois General Assembly, that I think we all should know about, and we're going to discuss it in full today. My guest today is Mr. Tom Shepard. He's with the Southeast Environmental Task Force, and on our live line is Ms. Juanita Rosaria. Am I saying that right?
You did a great job.
Thank you. She is the Executive Director of Friends of the Park. I'm sure everybody knows who that is. Those are the great people who stood up for us in stopping that Lucas Museum that was going to take place down on the lakefront. So we're going to start with Juanita. How you doing today? Thanks for calling in. Thanks for being with us. So Juanita, you've been involved with this fight for public use of land out at the Port Authority on the southeast side. Can you kind of tell us something about that, please?
Sure. For a number of years now, there's been a committee of folks, the Lake Calumet Vision Committee, of which we are pleased to be a part, that has been working to get some of the land around Lake Calumet open for public use, for recreation, for enjoyment of nature. The Port District owns the land, and they have not found appropriate economic uses for the land there for many, many decades, actually. And so we've been, along with lots of neighbors, working to create some parkland there. The challenge before us currently is that the Port District owes the state a lot of money. There was a $15 million debt, which has now accumulated some interest, as we understand, and they would like to have that debt forgiven. And we and others believe that if that were to happen, it should only happen if they would give us some land as a swap so that the public gets something out of that deal.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, you've been involved with this for a few years. What would you say has been the attitude of the board as far as complying with your request?
Yeah, and in recent years, so that the Port District has actually been talking to us most recently. There was no responsiveness in years back. However, at this point, we and other advocates are frustrated that the leadership at the Port District seems to just want to have their debt forgiven, but doesn't want to cooperate with the community to make sure we get some land in return.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of funny. I did some research myself, and you know, that debt is a funny thing. An interest-bearing loan,
okay,
and the loan has no defined maturity date. So, you know, one has to wonder why it is necessary to have a loan like that forgiven. You know, we had a discussion with the executive director of the Port Authority, and he told us that debt needed to be forgiven so they can borrow more money. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you know, on the one hand, we certainly value the idea of economic development in that space, and that's why the director wants to have the debt forgiven, because that would help their ability to take other loans in order to promote some projects that they have kind of in their drawing boards in their heads. Unfortunately, there has not been a lot of experience in actually getting any economic development really moving in that space. So it's an interesting idea to ask us to believe that that is going to happen, which again, we all want jobs in the area. But you know, we're in a state where there's so many fiscal challenges. Ask taxpayers to just swallow debt being forgiven an interesting question.
Yeah, it is. It really is. Tom, you want to chime in on this?
Yeah. Hi, Ronnie. Yeah.
Hey, Tom.
Hi. So I want to talk a little bit about the property out there and what's been going on over the years and why we think it's critical at this point in time that the Port Authority work with the communities over there to allow public access and certain type of passive recreation out there, as Juanita pointed out.
Mm-hmm.
They've got thousands of acres, first of all.
Okay.
And it's quite underutilized. Some of it, as Juanita said, just decades and decades of not being able to promote and bring business in out there.
Okay.
They did bring in a golf course in 1995.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, 2 golf courses. They've got 2 18-hole golf courses side by side out there, which was quite a departure from operating a port.
Yeah, to say the least.
Yeah. And but it was considered a pretty good use of that property because it had been dumped on. There's a lot of pollution, contamination underground there. So by capping it, covering it up, and utilizing it for certain type of recreation,
Okay.
might have been a good use for portion of that area there. However, there's so many other hundreds of acres out there that could be developed and turned over to the public. We're looking at a couple of different entities that could possibly operate it. One that's been very successful most recently is the Cook County Forest Preserve District, and acquiring properties and developing them for recreation and campgrounds now that they've developed in a couple of areas around the county. And they're highly successful and desirable. That's one of the things that we think would work well out there. The Chicago Park District also would be a potential operator of that. Because the Port District, I mean, we understand that they don't have staff and it's not their mission to operate like a nature preserve or something like that. Or an area where you would have boating and fishing and hiking and so a different entity would probably be running it. And at first we thought that the Department of Natural Resources would take it on, and in fact there was a deal in 2014 that the state IDNR was going to take 282 acres. There was a deal worked out between the governor's office and the IDNR and the Port District. It was a different governor in the State House at that time, Pat Quinn. And he was all for opening this property to the public. It was one of his major missions when he developed the Millennium Reserve.
What happened with that?
Well, the Millennium Reserve Steering Committee has taken a different form because once Governor Rauner became elected, 2 things happened. One thing was that the deal for that 282 acres at the Lake Calumet, that was all of a sudden nullified, right? Torn up that one. And secondly, the new governor rescinded the executive order that created the Millennium Reserve Steering Committee that Governor Quinn had formed. And so that part of the mission kind of disappeared. And that's what brought us here today, where we have been going back continually to the board to request for them to work with us and work with other agencies that might be able to consummate that deal that didn't happen in 2014. But we haven't been able to persuade them to work with us on it.
Juanita, now we know that you're friends of the park. You're not actually the park district. Have you had any discussions with the Chicago Park District as far as their interest in, developing that land for recreational use?
The most recent discussions have really been focused on the forest preserve. I think they're readier, relative to kind of other projects on their plate to think about taking this on. The Park District, if it were a little further out, might be interested in such a thing. But they've got enough other projects on their hands right now that it's not a high priority.
High priority for them. Tom, you mentioned that the original deal back in 2014 was kind of wiped out when the new administration came in. As far as you know, because I know information on that deal is kind of difficult getting our hands on it. But as far as you know, was there a debt forgiveness involved in that bill?
No, however, that debt forgiveness bill, this isn't the first time that it has come up. It did come up about 4 years ago. But
that was independent of to set aside the 282
yeah,
acres.
they didn't have anything to do with each other. The 282 acres was going to be, it was actually a swap of about $7 million for that land. So the port was going to, they were going to accrue about $7 million out of, in exchange for us to be able to operate that land back there, that 282 acres.
Okay. Juanita, I know you have a busy schedule, so I'm going to ask if there's anything else you'd like to add, and I'm going to let you go get back to your business.
We are just looking for folks to, help spread the word that this is an important moment to kind of protect the taxpayers' interest in this land and really, ensure that our legislators understand that we want a land swap out of this deal. Tom can continue to speak about that quite eloquently as well.
Okay. Well, thanks for calling. And again, we want to thank you for that yeoman's job you guys did out there and helping, standing up for the taxpayers and the citizens of Chicago and making sure that public land down there on the lakefront was still open to us and not given away to a private special interest. Thanks again. Thanks again. And we'll talk soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, Juanita.
Bye.
Let's talk some more about your contacts with with the Port Authority. I understand. Well, I was actually at a meeting with you when we talked to the chief sponsor of the bill to forgive the debt that's in the Senate. You want to kind of tell us something about that meeting?
Yeah. No, was this with Senator Trotter?
With Senator Trotter, right.
Okay, yeah. Because we've had a few meetings, so it starts to get a little confusing.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Well, at that meeting, I didn't know that the director of the Port District was invited. We contacted Senator Trotter as citizens and as citizen groups, community organizations. We had about 30 different community organizations sign a petition and presented to the senator and all the other elected officials. And we requested a meeting to discuss that particular bill, and to let him know that we were hoping for community benefits in exchange for that debt forgiveness. I think Donnie Trotter, Senator Trotter, invited us in with an open mind. Yes, he was at one end of the table, and our local 10th Ward Alderman Sue Sadlowski-Garza was at the other end of the table, and we're very grateful that we have her support 100% on this issue. And so Senator Trotter had Clayton Harris, the director of the Port District there, and asked him how a deal might be worked out. Could a deal be worked out? What type of concessions might be made? And it didn't go real well, let's just say. I think when you have someone across the table from you who has their arms folded tightly in front of them and a not very friendly look on their face, you're in for a little ride there. But the senator persisted and tried to pin him down, and we thought we made a little bit of headway. We thought we had Mr. Harris to budge on a couple of issues. One is that we're looking for some passage around across the lake there for people that want to get from the east side to the west or vice versa. And he's looking at that seriously because there are a lot of new bike paths out in the area. There's a new bike park that the Chicago Park District is developing just adjacent on the east side of the Lake Calumet property. So he was kind of sympathetic to the bikers on that one. Another possibility is a competition rowing out there. That's like collegiate rowing competition and things like that, and they may be open to something like that. But we couldn't get any firm commitment, and when he talked about his plan that he has, assured us that we'll be happy with the plan, but didn't want to give us any of the
Didn't
details.
tell us what the plan was.
Right.
Just here, you take this and smile no matter what, right?
That's right. And you know from going to the last board meeting that when they want to conduct business, they do it behind closed doors.
Yes, they do.
Go into executive session.
Exactly.
And that's been their practice. We're accustomed to that. We don't get to know exactly what's going on back there. Right. Exactly. So they're going to be hearing more from us, though, Jerry, in the future.
Real good. Yeah, I had, and I'll kind of share this with the listeners. I did attend the last board meeting of the Port Authority. I had a prepared statement. I read it. It was not well received. I'll put it that way. Mr. Ford, the chairman, angrily asked me what I wanted, and the statement that I read clearly spelled out. And the statement said that we would be more exactly what we wanted, and pinpoint exactly what we wanted, the land that we wanted. And he angrily told me that there was nothing else that they could do. He told me that they had a contract with the state. I explained to him that if the board signed it and the state didn't go along with it, you don't have a contract. It has to be agreement on both sides, consideration on both sides. So since that didn't happen, there was no contract. So we're researching now, trying to find out what exactly what that agreement was. Trying to get a copy of it. And we also told them that we're going to be vigilant. We're going to continue. And he told me that I needed to direct my concerns somewhere else. Basically to the state. In other words, he told me, leave them alone, and they immediately said, okay, we're going into executive session. That's basically telling me, okay, you're done, get out. Yeah, that wasn't too, I guess they just didn't receive what I had to say. It doesn't seem like we're going to get anywhere talking to the board, but I would like to know exactly what the entire plan is. Mr. Harris did explain that they do plan to build another golf course and a hotel, but he was kind of vague in explaining that. And maybe that's why they need to clear their books of this debt. But the things that come to mind is when you take taxpayers' money, use it, and then don't pay it back, that hurts us all. That's a hole there in the budget. That hurts us all. It doesn't hurt the immediate communities around it. That hurts the entire state. I think about how the schools are in crisis, how college kids can't get the MAP money, and we're talking, it's basically that $15 million has ballooned to about $50 million is what it is. It's like someone was saying at the last time we met that in effect, that $15 million in 1979 is the equivalent to $50 million today.
Right.
Combined interest and that's a lot of money.
Right.
And where's that money going to come from? We're saying, how are you going to fill that hole?
Yeah.
And nobody's coming up with an answer to that. I was shocked that the Illinois House of Representatives passed House Bill 1797, which basically says that any port authority, and that's just not the Illinois Port Authority, there are others, Joliet Port Authority, there's one down by Cairo, but any port authority that has a debt that's over 25 years old, they're no longer obligated to pay it back. That's odd. I mean, I wish I could do that. I mean, pass a bill, let me get rid of all my debt, right? Just wipe it out. Yeah, they introduced that bill in February. It was passed in March, and we were looking at the record of the timeline on it. There was no debate on that bill. No debate at all.
Right.
They introduced it in February, passed in March, boom, and so now it sits in the hand of the Senate. Once it got to the Senate, Senator Trotter became the chief sponsor of the bill. I guess the chief sponsor in the Senate for some reason backed off, and he was appointed chief sponsor or took over it. And we were appreciative that he sat down and he listened to us, and hopefully he'll listen to us again. But as I explained to the board, and I think all of us that are involved in this agreed that maybe we need to talk to other members in the Senate as well and get their ideas about this and stuff, and let them know what we think about it. It probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, but we do have to understand that, the state's in big financial trouble, and giving away $50 million isn't exactly how you solve that problem,
right.
But if it were to happen, taxpayers should get something out of it. It really should get something out of it. All right. If you're listening, you have questions for our guest or myself, you can call in at 708-223-8953. We'll be listening. So, name some of the groups that's involved in this effort.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, there's different community groups, first of all,
Okay.
and probably the nearest communities to the Lake Calumet area are Pullman, where I live, South Daring, West Chesterfield, Avalon Park, Chatham, West Chatham, Rosemore, Roseland, Alkale Gardens, Hegewisch, East Side, South Chicago. Those are the communities, and we have representatives of community groups in all of those places who have signed on to our project, the Lake Calumet Vision, and are withholding support of that House Bill 1797 until we're able to negotiate something. And then we have a number of groups from downtown, or you might say larger groups and national groups such as Sierra Club, the Friends of the Parks we already heard from and talked to a little bit ago. Great Lakes and open lands. Locally, we have groups, the Calumet Ecological Park Association, the Southeast Environmental Task Force, 3 different chambers of commerce have signed on to it. So there's a lot of support in the communities around there. It's just that the Port District has been so insular over the years and not very transparent. In fact, I don't know how many of your listeners even know that there's a board in the Port District out there.
Right.
One of the unfortunate things is not very many people know that Lake Calumet itself is out there. And that's one of the things that we do is try to acquaint people with the lake and with the potentials out there. We also
Calumet Park, my God.
Oh,
one of the prettiest parks in the city.
Right. And we have the Calumet River that runs right through. It comes in from Lake Michigan at 92nd Street.
Right.
Runs throughout the southeast side, which is why so many steel mills developed along that corridor. Excuse me. And the river flows to Lake Calumet. And so we have been showcasing the wetlands out there and the river and the lake for a number of years. Back around 1998 to 99, there was a number of big studies out in the area because of the steel mills leaving and leaving a lot of empty property, a lot of contaminated property. Local folks thought about, and by the way, there was an initiative for a while there by former Mayor Daley to build an airport at Lake Calumet, fill in the lake, build an airport out there. It was going to eradicate all of Hegewisch, part of the east side, all of Burnham, part of Calumet City, and people were a little bit concerned about that. And they rose up and they fought back. They fought very.
I guess they had visions of Meigs Field again, huh?
Well, I think that was about that time when Meigs Field was destroyed, I think.
Yeah, that's a funny thing. You know, after we were in that meeting with, well, let me go back. You had planned, and every year you guys do hold on one second. Hello, caller, how are you? Hello?
Hello, had planned, and every year you guys do.
All right. Every year you guys plan a hike over in that area.
Right.
Okay. Kind of tell me something about that.
Yeah, well, 6 years ago, we requested that we be able to bring people out onto the lake property that we're talking about here. And we caught the board in a good mood at that time because they allowed us to start our first annual Earth Day hike at Lake Calumet. And we brought probably, I think that first one we had maybe 40 or 50 people out there. And then the second year it grew a little bit more. Third and fourth, fifth years grew up to where we've had over 100 people out there on Earth Day coming out. And we've brought school groups out there on that day, have school bus bring kids from Roseland. Last time they came out from the Burnside area, has bus load of kids. And so we've been able to go hiking through the area and brought bird experts, plant experts out, fish and wildlife experts out, and
It's
historical.
really beautiful over there.
Yeah,
It really is.
historians to come out.
Really good. Okay, caller, how are you? Identify yourself.
This is Michael Lafargue. How are you?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
It's fine. I'm had a chance to call in, and I wanted to give both of you my support in everything that you're doing in regards to Lake Calumet. We've got 29 communities on the south side that are in support of what you're doing.
Great. Mike, you also president of the West Chesterfield Community Association, is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And we were blessed to have Tom Shepard come out to our community association and share all of this abundance of information that most people don't know with our community.
Yeah. You've been an advocate for this for quite some time. I guess you understand the importance of it. I guess being and I also want the people to know that Mike is a real estate professional, so he knows the importance of the development of that land and how it would benefit the community. You want to talk a little bit about that, Mike?
Well, sure. It's an underutilized asset that hasn't been managed well for many years. I believe the Port Authority was organized in 1955, and it's not turning a profit. It has not turned a profit for many years. On our south side, we have very few points of destination to ride our bicycles to or travel to, and the Lake Calumet is a diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
When you visit the area, you do not know that you're in Chicago. You don't see the buildings, you don't hear the cars, you are surrounded by an abundance of different types of bird life, cranes, turkey vultures, American eagles are flying out there. It's a very interesting area, and it could be used for picnicking, camping, rowing competitions, which that used to occur, I understand, in the history of that lake.
Yeah, that's right.
When the Pullman Village was first built.
Yeah, but for some reason, there's a big fence out there with razor wire on top and warning signs and cameras, and I don't know what that's for. I don't know if that's some Homeland Security stuff, but that's been up there for a while. I do remember it, and I don't think we've ever got an explanation as to why that's up there.
Well, it's certainly uninviting. I do share with you, we went through the catastrophe with the World Trade Tower, and I don't know if that has anything to do with the barbed wire fence and the razor wire fence that's there, but the community certainly deserves access to it, in particular when you're considering that there's a $15 million that is a House bill to be approved to forgive that debt, and that $15 million in debt, they've taken away the interest. So I believe Tom has shared with you that if you calculate the interest on the debt, that's $50 million.
That's correct. That's a lot of money.
So
it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, and it's our money. And boy, I wouldn't mind bringing my nieces and nephews to the lake to visit and see what type of wildlife there is accessible, especially on the south side of Chicago.
Yeah. It's a funny thing that it's been proven that the areas that are connected to large bodies of water, like the Chicago River, Lake Michigan, Wolf Lake, those are the most popular and the most enjoyable recreational areas set aside here in the city of Chicago, and a lot more than the landlocked parks. And those areas, those type of recreation areas get a lot more visitors to it. And all the communities on the south side, such as Altgale Gardens, Pullman, West Pullman, Morgan Park, Beverly, Chatham, all of Rosemore, Roseland, all of those communities deserve the same as the other communities. And bottom line is that the land is our land, although, on paper it says that the Port Authority owns it, but it's public land. The Port Authority is a municipal corporation, just like the city of Chicago. The only difference is they don't have the power to tax. So they get all of their money. Well, since they don't make a profit, they get all their monies from bond issues and from loans. it's a funny thing that, like you said, it was the Port Authority was established in 1955 for maritime use. And today, the only thing that makes a profit out there is a golf course, and their plans for economic development has nothing to do with maritime issues. It's more recreation. It's another golf course. It's a hotel. I made the suggestion, and I have no proof of this. This is just my thinking, that with 3 golf courses and a hall and a hotel out there, and it's sitting on water, and they're a municipal corporation, what's to stop them from putting a casino out there? Now I have no proof, but that's just my thinking. The city of Des Plaines is a municipal corporation. They got a gaming license, and they built the Rivers Casino. And the Rivers Casino is over 300 feet. The entrance is over 300 feet from the Des Plaines River. This place out there is sitting right on water. I mean, it could happen. It could happen, and we have to think like that. Now that could be of some benefit to the city. It could help the Port Authority make money, but who knows? And that's just my speculation. Thanks, Mike. Thanks for calling in. We appreciate you. We're glad you support us.
All right. Have a great day.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
Bye-bye.
Tom, I want to go back to this, to the hiking. So you guys recently had a hike scheduled out there.
Right.
And, it was a funny thing. Kind of tell us what happened with that hike after we had that meeting with Donald Trotter.
Well, this was to be our 6th annual Earth Day hike. 2 days before the hike, everything was planned. We had been advertising it for a couple of months and taking reservations from people, getting waivers signed that's required by the Port District, arranging for school buses to transport people, and for refreshments, and all of these different plans made. And 2 days beforehand, we received an email from Director Clayton Harris telling us that he didn't think that they had the resources to accommodate our hike this year, which came as a big surprise with only 2 days to go.
Yeah.
Of course, he said, well, we should have been in contact with them. And we're supposed to be making these plans with them, but we have been seeing them. We've been seeing them like 4 times in recent weeks, and at any point in time, he could have told us that either there were problems or that we had to get together and work things out better. But he did not. We just received that terse letter that they were canceling us.
Yeah, and this happened. We met with Senator Trotter on that on that Tuesday, and Wednesday afternoon. I got a copy of it right here. They just denied us. I don't know if they were angry or whatever. Hello, caller. Identify yourself. Hey, Lloyd. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Good. Okay.
Listen, I think that there is something going on there that is huge. Probably something along the lines of a casino, because when you look at the financial status of the Port Authority, not only is there $15 million that's owed to the state, but there are $15 million in bonds that the Port Authority is actually paying on. They're paying interest, and they're also redeeming some of those bonds a little bit early. And it might relate to some licensing issues related to operation of a casino.
Interesting.
Having a limited amount of debt. They're going to try to take on some new debt. Incidentally, the second bond, the bond issue that was issued by the Port Authority, in order to secure those bonds, that additional $15 million of bonds, they pledged all of the assets and all of the revenue as security.
Really?
For those bonds.
Wow. Okay.
And I just wanted to get you all's thoughts on that.
It's Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to say something about that contract you referred to, the original loan, which was taken on, I think it was 1979 or 80. And in that, and Lloyd, this is for your information too, in that contract, they actually pledged the assets, and it's possible that they could lose that property if they don't pay that loan back.
Yeah.
Now, who they would lose it to, I'm not quite sure if it goes back to the state or how. I think that's how it's worded, that it could go back to the state, which is very unlikely for that to happen. But they never made a single payment on that loan. Right. So, you are correct. You're correct that in order for them to go forward and to be able to borrow any further money or to attract a private investor, they want to have that $50 million wiped clean in order to get somebody in there. Otherwise, it's a big liability and nobody really wants to touch it. So they're really looking at privatization or attracting one major operator out there that would take it on. But they don't want to do it with $15 million debt hanging over them.
I think you're correct, because that bond issue that they've got out there, they've paid it down from $15 million to $10 million. They paid all the interest on it, and I believe it matures in about 2020, and they will pay it off in its entirety. And of course, they're setting aside money to redeem bonds as each year goes on. So it's probably something that's huge in the works, particularly if they're trying to foreclose the public from having any access and any use of the property.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what strikes me as strange. They want to. Our argument has been that this would be a benefit to the kids more than anything. I mean, kids can learn a lot. I mean, there's no place in the immediate Chicago metropolitan area like this where they can go out and see so much and gain so much. I mean, schools could use this as part of their STEM curriculum. It's just so much to be for the children to benefit from going out there. And for them to restrict that kind of activity makes you wonder what's in the works. I can't see children having a negative effect on playing golf. We probably won't be able to afford to go to that hotel. I mean, the cost to go to the golf course now, I think the minimum tee off is $59, and it ranges upwards, from $59. But it makes you wonder why they want to restrict recreational activity for children and families out there. If face it, across the street you got the strip club, and these are just my observations. I mean, I have no facts of what they're planning, but I'm just looking at things. My sister used to tell me all the time that if you master the obvious, the deeper things come real easy. So all you have to do is just look at what's there, and then critically thinking, well, this could happen, that could happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and one thing too, and I'll clear your line. The people of the board of the authority are probably watching all the traffic that's heading out to Hammond every day, mm-hmm. and how much money is going out there, mm-hmm. and it certainly would shut that flow of money out of the city, out of the state, and keep it inside. And given that they're their own municipal corporation, what's stopping them?
Yeah, exactly. All they need is a gaming license, and they can start building.
Yep.
But what they're telling us is that they have big plans for economic development out there, both to improve their port facilities and increase their shipping capacities and stuff like that. Bringing on new tenants out there for storage purposes, mm-hmm. and things like that. In addition to this hotel, and I don't know about the other golf course. They did have plans a few years ago to build another golf course. That's if the Olympics were going to come to mm-hmm. Chicago, mm-hmm. And golf is now an Olympic game again. Mm-hmm. But that didn't come through, of course, so they didn't build a additional golf course. And we're not opposed to that economic development. We want people to go to work out there. Yeah. I mean, when I was in my 20s, I used to work on the grain ships. That was, and I knew a lot of people
from over there, right?
I was born and raised right across the road.
Right.
And so that supplied a lot of jobs to a lot of people over the years.
Yes, it did.
But what we're asking them to do and what we really want to influence them is to have a different way of thinking, that it doesn't have to be a smelly armpit of the city like it has been for so many years. There's no more dumping. We've gotten laws now that they can't landfill nearby and anywhere in Cook County. In fact, no more municipal garbage can be landfilled. So we're looking to improve the whole area. Yeah. The steel mills are gone and those jobs are gone. They're not coming back. Okay. But what did they leave? They left brownfields and contamination and slag and pollution and just all kinds of issues that are going to be with us from now, maybe for the next century or longer. Here we have an opportunity to kind of clean the slate here and have, as I think Michael called it, a diamond in the rough.
Yeah.
A little gem of an area out here and a pleasant place for people to come and visit.
All right, thanks, Lloyd. Appreciate you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Environmentally, what's the situation out there now?
Well, it's not real good and it's not totally bad.
Okay.
But over the years, the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District had been dumping sludge directly into the lake in the marshes out there for many, many years, for decades. There was all kinds of municipal garbage dumped out there. We had incinerators right on the lake. All kinds of waste went right into the lake and the surrounding areas there. And so there is evidence of contamination out there. They have done what they call a phase 1 study where they've taken borings and from here and there. They've sampled the water. They sampled the sediment. The water is in a bad quality. The sediment down below on the bottom there has a lot of contamination. And
but it's fixable, right?
And well, maybe there are spots that would have to be covered and capped, just like they did with the golf course.
Right.
And we understand that. And there's other areas that might just need simple cleanup or, alterations.
Okay. Hello, caller. Hello. Yes.
Hi. This is Linda Hudson.
Hi, Linda. How are you?
I'm fine. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Linda.
I have a question for you regarding your environmental group.
Okay.
And I'm just wondering if you are aware of the issues that the residents in the Burnside area are having with A. Finkel and Son.
Yes, we are. Now, I haven't heard anything in recent days, but I know when they first moved there from Goose Island that there were problems, and we thought they were working with neighbors. Maybe you could tell us more if you're either a neighbor or you have some knowledge of that.
Well, I do know that they are not working with the neighbors. The lights in the area have been off for a very long time. There's some type of sediment, something that when the residents wake up in the morning, it's all over their car. Jerry and I, we actually went to Alderman Harris's office, I want to say about a year and a half ago, and, reached out to her, asked for her help, and her comment to us was she no longer had a contact at Finkel and Son. And I find that strange that, you've got this business that's in the ward that's making lots of money and you don't have a contact, but when we look at her D2s, they're giving her a lot of money for her campaign.
Who's this in the 8th Ward there?
This is in the 8th Ward, yes.
Oh, okay.
So when I talk to the residents, I've seen the damage. I've seen structural damage. I've seen cracks in walls. And they need help. And, we aren't getting it from Alderman Harris. And I'm just wondering, and, a couple of us, we received EPA documents. And, you really have to be a scientist to decipher them. So I'm just wondering what your group can do to help the residents of Burnside.
That was, before Tom answers, there was a article in the Reader a couple of months ago. And it was based on a report that the EPA had filed, and they said that that stuff in the air that's falling down on people's cars and making it real hard to see the streetlights. They said there's high levels of manganese in the that's being released from that factory over there. They say it's not exactly healthy, and it is doing damage to some cars over there, and it does make lights hard to shine. You want to respond to what she was asking?
Yeah, Linda, I think one thing that should be demanded is to have some kind of monitors put on the fence line or the property lines of the steel company there. Your timeline there when you were talking like a year and a half to 2 years ago, when the alderwoman and whoever else said that they don't have contacts anymore, Finkel Steel was sold to a German firm, and the fellow that was on the ground at the plant there in Burnside, who was accessible, you might have known him too, John Gianetti or something like that. He retired, and once he left, we didn't have anybody to contact here in the United States anymore.
Right.
Somebody was over in Germany, and it was really difficult to get to anyone, including probably the alderman. But maybe they have their ways. I imagine they do. But I think that the first thing you should do is to request that they have some air monitoring system around there to find out what's been landing on people's homes and their cars and backyards and everything, and find out.
And Tom, how do I go about doing that?
Well, I think we need to get the EPA out there, and both the Illinois and the U.S. EPA, and as if you've been following it, you know, there's been a lot of attention on the southeast side, and over the past at least 5 or 6 years, when we've been dealing with the pet coke issue, and now, as Jerry pointed out, the manganese. We have a facility over on the Calumet River that handles manganese, and they're doing it in open piles, and it blows throughout the neighborhood, and it's no good. It's bad for people. It's bad for the environment, and the EPA just required them to install. I think they have 14 monitors around their property now, and it is showing that there are high levels of this manganese out there. So I think maybe need to do something like that at Finkel.
I will definitely do some research and do that. Thank you very much.
Well, Tom, in the last few minutes here, let's okay, bottom line overall.
Yeah. Well, we're going forward. In fact, we might be down in Springfield next week if there's an opportunity to meet with Senate President Cullerton, or if a hearing is being held, we definitely want to be down there to testify. We're already preparing remarks that can be submitted online, and we're going to continue trying to promote our plan. We're right now going out to community groups and doing presentations and familiarizing more people with the area. And we also want them to see some of the good things that are going on in other parts of Cook County, like out in Palos. There's beautiful things. Cook County Forest Preserve opened, I think it's called Frog Hollow or something out there. They got a new campground there. They've got a new campground in Calumet City. There's wonderful things going on along the North Branch up on the north side of Chicago, and over Ping Tom Park in Chinatown is getting all kinds of new things. Where's ours? We just think that we deserve it out on the far southeast side, where we have suffered many, many years of stink and pollution and poor air quality, poor water quality, and not much in the way of recreational facilities that we're looking for here.
Okay, real good. And you know, and I do have to give Senator Donnie Trotter credit for one thing, and this should be said. He point blank, while we were in that meeting, he point blank asked Mr. Harris, "Where's our money?" He did say that, and he asked him 3 times. He asked him, "What kind of organization are you?" And Mr. Harris danced around that. So I will give him credit for, you know, standing up for us there. So you know, thank you for that, sir. Yeah, like I said, I am part of this this fight. I got involved with it kind of late, but when I heard about it, I said, this is, you know, I was appalled. I was really appalled. You know, you borrow money and now you don't want to pay it back so you can borrow more money. It just doesn't make sense. And especially at a time when the state is having all kind of financial problems. And the one thing I really have to question is that if this same governor nixed the deal when there was no debt forgiveness involved in it, now they're asking for the same thing and debt forgiveness. How do they think he's going to pass this? It makes you wonder, you know.
Yeah, even if it gets passed by the Senate, he still has to sign it.
He still has to sign it.
Right.
And what do they think? You know, and it makes you wonder if this all might just be something political, seeing how it is the election season.
Well, golly, this is Chicago, isn't it?
Makes you wonder, doesn't it?
I want to say one more thing to your listeners, particularly, because if they're out there and they have heard this recording today and believe as we do that something like this, like we deserve this out on the south side of Chicago, please call your senator, your state senator. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to live in Senator Trotter's district. Any of the state senators that's going to come up for a vote with any of them, whether you live in Oak Park or Palos or Beverly or right there near Pullman or West Chesterfield, call your senator. The bill is called House Bill HB 1797. It's the debt forgiveness bill, and say that you think that we should have some kind of community benefit. If they're going to forgive that much money, that there should be something in return, quid pro quo.
That's right. That's right. Or let's just kill the bill. That's an option.
And then we'll just pick up the pieces and
keep on trying. Absolutely. But thanks, Tom. Thanks. You know, I want to cover one other thing that's kind of not related before we head out tonight. There is a red light. Everybody is aware of the red light camera issue we have here in Chicago. There's a red light camera at 95th and Stony Island. At one time, that was the highest revenue producing camera in the system. Mr. Mark Wallace came out and did a presentation at a meeting I was at on Saturday, and he informed us that that camera, all it did was produce money. It didn't prevent accidents, and anyway, red light cameras don't prevent accidents. But what the study showed that they did, that all of the accidents that had been recorded there at that intersection happened between midnight and 4 a.m. in the morning. Nothing during the daytime when the traffic is heavy, and you know, they got the lights are badly timed there, and this is why so many people get caught over. Well, anyway, there's a move to remove that camera. And City Council recently passed an ordinance, and this is after the judge had told them that they had to nix all those tickets, red light camera tickets from 2010, and your mayor pulled a fast one and says, okay, well, you know, you sent out all those blue notices, and that's something else where probably Mark can better explain that at the meeting that I'm about to tell you about. But anyway, the City Council passed an ordinance recently that said that any install or removal of red light cameras can only be done after they have a community meeting. So I don't know how long this community meeting has been planned, but your elected officials have failed you, because not one of them have let the community know that this meeting is scheduled, and it's scheduled for Tuesday, May 9th at 6 p.m. St. Albie's Church, right there on the corner of 91st and Harper. So if you live in the 7th or the 8th ward, because those are the wards that are going to be who they're looking at to, you know, say yay or nay. If you live in those wards, 6 p.m. Tuesday night, St. Albie's Church, be there. It's real simple. You show up, camera goes. You stay home, it stays. I don't know anybody that's in favor of red light cameras, because they have not done anything positive. And anyway, where's the money going? Money, where's it going? Where is the money going? So again, Tuesday evening, St. Albie's Church. Actually, it's 9037 South Harper. 9037 South Harper. You know, there's so much going on with those red light cameras. It's almost unbelievable. You know, there's so much scandal been around those things, man, you know. And I want to thank Mark Wallace, you know, real quick for the job he's doing in trying to correct that. You know, they can't never tell us what's going on with the money. And then people are paying these, you know, high cost bills with this attached to them. Oh, man, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
I was at the WVON annual picnic last year where I don't know if Mark was out there taking signatures, but they were collecting signatures, and people were climbing over each other to be able to sign those petitions. Right.
Nobody wants those things, you know, and it's just unbelievable that the city continues to ram that stuff down our throat. Any final words, sir?
No, I want to thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for your support and for your being outspoken on behalf of this issue. And anybody else wants to join us, they can contact me at Southeast Environmental Task Force. My email address is tomshepard2001@yahoo.com, and that's TOMSHEPHERD2001@yahoo.com. Thanks so much for coming, Tom. Thank you. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again. And remember, policy matters. Have a good evening.